automation, how to dominate the space, and even understanding when does it make sense to automate. Have you ever over automated anything?
Of course, yeah. That's why we figured out how to automate just the right amount.
Yeah, you guys have ever seen things that have been over engineered? Like, why complicate things when they can be done very simply?
Mm-hmm.
But you want fancy stuff. We all want fancy stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, but having the right place for that fanciness to show up in your business is one of the key things. I think that when you master that, that's like Jedi, Jedi Knight,
Well,
Jedi
because
Knight
you
level.
want to understand like the automation that you put in place, whether it's in your business life or your home life, your personal life, whatever it is, you want to get the right amount so that you can still feel like you have the level of control that you want, so that you can feel like you are aware of what is happening, but also so that you're not the bottleneck, so that you're not being relied upon in order for things to keep moving forward. So that's a big part of it, because yeah, you can automate everything, but if you automate everything and you have no idea of what's going on or what's happening, you're nowhere in the loop, then you're just nowhere in the loop.
So I had a little something I came up with as I was thinking about what could I say that make it a little bit catchy to ring in your ears a little bit. And it goes a little something like this. If you don't know, call a pro, but you still got to master that flow. All right. So think about that. If you don't know, call a pro, but you still got to master that flow. So, I mean, it goes all the way down to the quick cash funnel that you guys have set up, right? We got you set up with the perfect catcher's mitt, regardless of the marketing type that you're doing for property acquisition, for wholesale, right? If you're using it to acquire your rental properties, the idea is there that you're all set up to go, but you still got to know how to crank the knobs and twist and move what needs to be put into place, or at least expect what we've designed for you to work in that way, so that you have that desirable experience when the leads
Right.
start to come in and your phone's ding and you're like, what's happening? Well, remember, you flicked the switch to turn the ads on and now everything's being fed to you. Like, get after it. And
And
why
don't
I,
step in the way of your automation.
yeah, you got to kind of let it work and let it warm up to say, okay, I might want to drive with the seat leaned back a little bit more. I might want to go a little bit faster. I might
Mm-hmm.
need to get into the slow lane for the first few laps so that I can burn in my familiarity, my muscle memory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's pretty important, because if you're anything like us, you didn't come to the table with one tool. So
No.
before you got to the REI Blackbook, you probably had other stuff
Yeah.
in your bag to do the things you need to do. Every carpenter's got the tool belt, the the fanny pack with all the stuff in it, right?
I don't think any carpenter wants you to refer to their tool belt as a fanny pack ever. Let's not ever do that again.
Yeah, if you're a contractor right now, you're cussing me out in your mind, I would imagine. I would imagine. Uh, but the point of it all is having all those tools and then trying to figure out how to make it all work together. One of the big things that we had to figure out, especially as you guys know, in part of our story, when Arisha started to wholesale houses full time, just by stepping into that arena and you start to get on lists and you go on the internet and you get stuff coming at you and you see that there's a million different cool tools
Mm-hmm.
for all the fools. But here's the thing, you got to understand the rules of what makes sense for you. So if you're just grabbing all this stuff and sticking it together and you're building this Frankenstein and like you don't even know how to pull the strings and be the Geppetto of the Pinocchio, you will consistently struggle. And then when a string gets snipped and Pinocchio can't get his right arm up, you are like, what's going on? Stuff is broken. And so that's kind of one of the blessings we've seen with Blackbook and having one integrated platform. But there's still going to be instances where you have a legacy tool that you're using for this part of your business, a legacy tool that you have for that part of your business. And, being able to get a better viewpoint or better understanding of the landscape at a high level for how all these things come together is kind of, part of your responsibility. If you're going to have this bucket of cool
Mm-hmm.
tools, is like, know how they play together. In what instance do you have to pick one or the other? What ways can you connect them together? And then what ways does it make sense that for a period of time until you get more advanced in your operations to just kind of keep them siloed and slightly imperfect?
Yeah, and they don't have to be legacy tools either. Like they can be tools that come out or that you acquire as you get going. I
Mm-hmm.
think Drew made a really good point is for us, REI Blackbook is really all encompassing. It really included everything that I was doing. Um, or every other tool that I had acquired, essentially, except for the phone system at the time. Like that was the only thing that we had to keep outside of REI Blackbook because Profit Dial just did not exist. And so recognizing what REI Blackbook does and doesn't do, what it's meant to do and what it's not meant to do, is very helpful. So as you learn the tool more, like you first start with, we use this analogy all the time, right? REI Blackbook is so robust, it might as well be an elephant that you have to eat. So then how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Most new customers to REI Blackbook have no idea where to take that first bite on the elephant, right? Do you start at the tail or do you start at the snout? Like a trunk, right? I don't know. Yeah, front end or the leg. Let's put it there. So like, where do you start? And so that's where we can come in and help. But as you get more familiar with the tool, you start to learn what its capabilities really are and where it's masterful. And then you can go and say, okay, well, it's not a power dialer, right? Like REI Blackbook, yes, has a phone system. Yes, can do your outbound calls. Absolutely. But if you're trying to dial 12,000 phone numbers, like you should have Mojo, or you should have a software platform that is meant to do that level of calling, because it's going to make your life a lot easier. It's going to make your agent's life a lot easier. There's going to be a lot of speed. And then you start to figure out, okay, so how can I use this tool with REI Blackbook, and how can we make them work together? How can we keep them completely separate if we have to keep them separate? Are there ninja tricks to get them integrated together, or is it like a Band-Aid to put it together? And none of those options are necessarily bad. It's just a matter of knowing what you put together and what you want. What's your outcome? What is your desired outcome?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of that comes from just thinking bigger and like stepping out of the tech. That's why anytime, if you've seen Risha and I do any sort of course or training on how to use automation, how to use REI Blackbook and get the most out of it, a lot of times we start like just talking to you, just having a conversation. You know, I'm not trying to worry about, is my screen zoomed in enough for you to see the little drop down menu and how many letters are in it and what we labeled our filter for the contact, like it's concepts that need to be conveyed. That's critical, because if you don't really get what's happening, then there's the portion of it that you get lost. But at the same time, there's a level of it where you don't need to go so deep. You know, how many of you got an iPhone? A few of you got iPhones out there, right? One button. It's not even one button anymore, right? But you really only had to know how to do is power the thing on and work with one button. And then now it reads your face, it reads your eyes specifically, and then you've got access to the castle. But you don't have to know all the details of the tech, but you still need to know how to get logged into iTunes. You still got to know how to like log into the App Store to get, you still got to have your password to go get the apps and download and authorize and all those things. So you got to have the basics of how to navigate the device. But it's so simplified. You just need to know that 10%. The rest of the Ferrari engine under the hood need not be fully understood to the level of the designers and the engineers. And so I think that goes for REI Blackbook. It goes for other tools that you're using, and understanding, like, if you have tool XYZ that's supposedly cool, when you hear about their product updates, pay attention to some of that stuff. Does it make sense? Is this an opportunity to have these tools commingle and actually serve you? Because if, they can connect together, but that doesn't really fit my business model, then don't bend over backwards to connect the dots when that's not really actually going to help you. And just to have more stuff connected to REI Blackbook doesn't make you the coolest kid in school if you've actually over automated or complicated your world because one new person comes on and things come to a grinding halt because they can't figure out how to do the basics.